When one thinks of great mathematicians, the names that inevitably come to mind most often include the likes of Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, and Katy Perry. No? Well, they certainly have used mathematics to their advantage in the way they work to construct their hit songs. More important than a lyric or melody in popular music these days is what Max Martin, one of today's top music producers, calls melodic math. There are limitless angles to look at math in music, but for this discussion, we will look specifically at the use of symmetry in pop music, the emotions that it creates, and why I believe it makes pop music so popular. The use of symmetry has been used in popular music for hundreds of years. One only has to look at Mozart's A vous dirai-je maman from 1778 to see it in action. And in case you fear you're not familiar with the tune, it goes a little something like this. Do 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 do. One can easily see the repetition in the first and third bars, as well as the second and fourth, but notice the symmetry of the melody line in that what goes up must come down. If we jump forward roughly 230 years, we can look at melodies from some of the greatest chart-topping songs from the century and see the same formula at work, as shown here in Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. As Professor Peter Shekel states in the definitive biography of P.D. Q. Bach, the reason for the importance of symmetry in music is that the regularity of pattern builds up an expectation of what's coming next. He notes that the best songs strike just the right balance between predictability and surprise. We can see how the use of lyrical flexibility tweaks in the Max Martin technique, in how the addition of one or two notes in the core melodic motif keep the melody fresh, yet instantly memorizable. Professor at Princeton University and author Elizabeth Helmuth Margulies states in her TED Talk, Why We Love Repetition. Repetition invites us into the music as imagined participants rather than just passive listeners. When bits of music are repeated, they form a connection in the brain, which helps the listener to establish a sort of roadmap into their minds of what's coming up next, and pretty soon they're humming along. What's fascinating and has been put to horrific use is how the success of our brains finding that roadmap depends largely on where we're from. Case in point, the way our brains interpret Western music and the repetitive patterns is far different than how Middle Easterners' brain would, and vice versa. It is that scientific fact that led the CIA to use the same chart-topping dance hits from the States as torture methods for its Middle Eastern prisoners being held at Guantanamo Bay. That's right, Max Martin's award-winning melodic math combined with Britney Spears' infectious vocals were used to literally drive suspected terrorists insane. According to Daniel Levitin, a psychology professor at McGill and author of This Is Your Brain on Music, our brains automatically process music and try and find out what's coming next. He says that the tonal structures of the Western music were something the detainees' brains couldn't figure out. They kept trying and failing. He compared it to Americans being forced to listen to Chinese opera. The inability to make sense of the music can cause a psychotic break. Sorry for the dark turn. Researchers have done countless studies examining how tempo, key, rhythm, and not only affect our mood, but with the use of MRIs, they've been able to detect the spontaneous response our brains have to tempo. It propels the body to involuntary movement, such as tapping your toe or your finger, or even full-on dancing. And when we're dancing, we're usually happy. One last example of symmetry in popular music is how our ears love an interval. Examples of songs are Somewhere Over the Rainbow, or the musical hook of Da-na-na-na-na, My Sharona. These are both octaves, whereas in Lady Gaga's Bad Romance, she uses fifths, which is interestingly similar to many call-to-action melodies like the Heralder's Trumpet, ba-ba, ba-ba, or even the Wicked Witch's Army's Inverted, oh, yo. Gaga uses the fifth interval as a show of strength, as the tempo makes us move and the repetition imprints on our brains and we start to hum, ra ra oh mama. This is the magic, rather the math, behind what makes one song stick in our heads more than another. Together we've uncovered the mystery of how music moves us, both physically and emotionally. So now you understand. The secret is in the symmetry.